Hello, my fellow patriots. This is Alex with Disabled Vets Perspective, and this is Belinda. Hello, Belinda. How are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
I need that applause sound machine. I've got the thing, but I can't use it because I don't have the right plug for the microphone. But I could have you with a round of applause and cheering and all that. But
Little
all
golf
the
clap.
technicalities. Yeah, right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Dangerous Freedom DM, Jeff Brudeau, Charles Wright, Propus, Margot, Linda Horner's here, and let's see, if Benny Muddy is here, or one of those. But good to see everybody tonight. I want to open the show with a disclaimer, and that is that this show is not intended for children. If you are under the age of 18, I please ask you to leave now because this is a discussion for adults pertaining to events and our history and affairs dealing with the veterans. So if you are under the age of 18, please at this point leave this channel.
Oh,
Thank
goodbye.
you.
Sorry, gotta go.
Yes, and have a good evening. Yes. So, how are you, Miss Belinda?
I'm fine. How was your week?
It was a week, just about an entire week. Come to think of it, after the show's over, that should just about do it for the whole week.
Well, a lot of interesting things have been going on this week in the news.
Yes, indeed, and that's it's going to make for a creative show, I think. It's almost coming in buckets now, and
Yeah.
It's kind of a little hard to keep up with. California Critics here, good to see you. So, how do we want to start? I guess there are two articles in the Intergovernmental Affairs this week, so it's been a light week for Mr. Wilkie and his activities. This one here, just to start it off, it says Wilkie praises HVAC leaders' end of the year suicide prevention goal. VA Secretary Robert Wilkie praised members of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs today for setting the goal of getting important veteran suicide prevention legislation passed before the end of the year. So that's a good thing. We're really starting to see movement on this suicide prevention, and that's a good thing because it seemed to be a lot of, well, this is really, really bad, and something needs to be done about it, and then it would go away, and it just seems like now they're really starting to kick it into gear a little bit.
Oh yeah, they needed more resources. Passing out a pamphlet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't going to cut it.
Yeah, call this number. See if we can't do something for you.
Yeah. Oh, like you experienced. Oh, I'm sorry, you have to go home. We can't see you.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And that's what killed him. So, it's just that important. The second one here, it says VA reports significant increase in veterans' use of telehealth services, probably because they didn't have access to it before. So obviously there's going to be an increase. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs found more than 900,000 veterans used VA's telehealth services in fiscal year 2019. As revealed in mid-October report. So,
how many? 900,000?
Yeah, 900,000.
I wonder if that counts as like every time I log on, not individual people, but every time I log on to telehealth. Because that seems
that would be an interesting question. It does seem excessive, but the other thing is there are so many veterans that live rural, and once you've been in the thick of it, you kind of want to run off into the woods and get away from everything, or at least some of us do. And I just think that because of more veterans having access to it, obviously the numbers are going to be significantly higher. Eldon Gomez, how you doing? Welcome. Anyway, so that's absolutely it for the Intergovernmental Affairs. Like I said, it's a light week. I think they're getting ready for Thanksgiving, and everything kind of slows down. Plus, they're getting ready for recess in in Congress right now too. Good riddance.
Yeah, recess. I wish the average worker got recess.
Yeah. Well, wish the average worker got the Cadillac benefit package that they get
True.
too.
Yeah,
Plus
absolutely.
the 100% retirement. There's nobody else on the planet that gets 100% retirement, and that can be after one term. One term. You can actually
Hey,
get
have you
that
heard
after
anything
one
about
term of service.
Ruth Ginsburg?
I hear she's at Bernie's.
What is Bernie's?
Weekend at Bernie's. Well, you haven't seen the movie, so anyway, the synopsis of it. Hey, CLC is these two kids get invited to this rich guy's house, a beach house, for a party, and when they get there, they find the guy dead. So the whole weekend, they're basically sitting with his arm over their shoulder, and they put
Mm,
glasses on him,
okay,
and
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's what she's up to. Hey, Pete, good to see you. Wilman, good to see you. So yeah, I don't know what to think, but I know that dabble gawkers, or what do they call that when you have lookalikes, doppelgaggers
Doppelganger.
or
Doppelganger.
doppelganger? Yes. Well, unfortunately, when you hit a certain age, your doppelgangers end up being old as well, and pretty soon even they start getting too sick to carry on the duplication.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Mary, good to see you. So, I haven't trusted this thing since they declared her dead on Fox News back in February, and they had that little thing come up on the screen, and then they said, "Oh no, that was a mistake." That's not a mistake. That was a oops. We got caught.
Well, it whatever the case may be, we just need to replace her. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, she's
But
too ill to make
if we
sound
find out,
decisions.
right, but if we found out that her aides are signing decisions on her behalf, that's going to flip the whole court system upside down because it's just so illegal.
Yeah, no,
Aides
that'll never.
cannot sign on decisions.
Yeah, but that would never come to fruition. That just wouldn't happen.
Yeah. But the other thing is, if she is in fact gone and there is a replacement standing in for her, and in some way the members of the Supreme Court were aware of it and complicit and quiet about it, there's a real serious problem with that.
Oh yeah, yeah. There is. I have a bunch of heartburn with the Supreme Court, but that's
Yeah,
another
I'm
time and
starting
another
to lose a
place.
lot of faith with him. Yeah, another video.
Yeah.
Dirty Rotten Imbecile has made it, so that's a good thing. Now we got a group. All right, so over here on military.com, we kind of start off a couple of these things. The headlines are adequate, but we'll see what they kind of say. Land nav fitness knock most soldiers out of latest expert soldier badge running. So
What?
apparently the soldiers are becoming weak and complacent, is what
Say
I'm
it ain't
getting from
so.
this. Uh,
Say it ain't so.
yeah, well, they've had to reduce the requirement for enlistment so many times that they're just about taking the children now. So I think the enlistment age is down to 8. I'm not sure, but
That's what I
we'd
heard.
have
Yeah.
to check on that. Yeah. Navy Secretary sides with Admiral despite Trump tweet on Gallagher review. Speaking of Gallagher, this one is a big deal. So let's talk about Gallagher, shall we?
Well, you want to talk about Spencer getting fired first at the, cut the head off right away, or what?
Oh, say it isn't so. Yes, exactly. What did you say? It would have been like 80 minutes ago
Yeah.
because it's been like 10 minutes since you said that. So yeah. Um, the problem is that the Secretary of Navy apparently wrote that a tweet is not an order, therefore he will not consider it an order. So I guess he went in to discuss it with the president. What he said specifically, Secretary of the Navy, President Trump's Navy SEAL tweet is not a formal order. That's apparently what he said. So,
And that's what a lot of people are basing it on, is, because it's become, social media plays such a big part in the military now, hence all the lazy people and they can't pass a basic PT. Where do order what
right.
How has the chain of command changed? How has the UCMJ was rewritten for this year? What are the changes? How do you separate the social media aspect from what you and I were raised in the military? A pretty cut and dry chain of command. And you knew where
Right.
how to follow it, what to do, how to report things, you knew the ebb and flow. And now it seems that it's kind of muddled. And whoever let it get kind of muddled, shame on them.
Well, the military was in such disarray with Obama. He got rid of some really good leaders and replaced them with yes men and yes women. And that was devastating because it completely destroyed the command and control structure of the branches of military.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we're dealing right now with flag officers specifically that are part of the La Resistance, and that really bothers me. With General Kelly and General Mattis, you know, I had a lot of respect for them, and I'm losing that, unfortunately, because they are part of this resistance. They're part of the push for the globalism, and they're part of the team that will resist President Trump at all costs. And
Well,
hello, Chrysler, how you doing?
I read an interesting article about that, because you know how we've always said that we will disobey an unlawful order. Well,
Yes,
what seems to be happening in today's touchy-feely environment is they're picking and choosing. What you
right.
told, and that specifically, I'm talking about Vendeman, or whatever that uh, Ukraine plant guy's name is. That,
Comrade Windman.
yeah, he was told that he needed to, I can't remember the exact words. It wasn't do not testify. It was you need to make yourself not available, or something like that. And that was through his chain of command. But then the other side of him, being a foreign diplomat, under
And an
Article
arrogant
1 with
capitalist
Congress,
ass.
he was able to play the middle. Well, I feel it's my duty because it's an unlawful order, because I saw, this heinous thing, which all turned
Yeah,
out to be is two people saying, I think, I feel. And this is getting our country in
right.
trouble. All this feely stuff. It's getting us in
Yeah,
trouble.
emotion is ruling. But the other thing is, his lawyers told him specifically, don't tell anybody about this. And he took that as, oh, don't tell your chain of command, but tell him, and him, and make sure you
Yeah,
get
his
her, get a
his
little
two
note about it
brothers.
too.
Yeah,
So he
his
told
brothers.
everybody except for his chain of command.
Yeah. And the article, it was very long and detailed,
Yeah,
and it talked
but
about who.
apparently Fiona Hill also.
Oh, well, yeah, it talked about where do these people, because it's not clear in their minds anymore. Do they fall under the UCMJ? Do they fall under Foreign Service Officer rules and guidelines? And to me, it's pretty cut and dry. If you're in the military, you fall underneath the military. If you're
Yeah,
a
well, that's the
civilian,
interesting thing. Usually he shows up to work in his nice little fancy suit, but then when he happens to show up for these hearings and when he's out in public and you can't criticize him, he's all dressed up in his blues with all his polished medals and everything. So he's trying to use both sides. If you want to show
exactly.
up in uniform and you want to act as a military officer, then you are under the UCMJ and you are subject to those rules. If you are a foreign diplomat working in a diplomatic position, then if you wear your suit and tie, then you are subject to international law or foreign affairs.
Right. There's a different set of guidelines for civilians. And this guy, because we've let it happen, was able to play the way he wanted to play. The way somebody, well, he was just a puppet. The way somebody wanted to pull his strings to play, because he's really a non issue. But what was disturbing, and I'm sure you heard, is that the Ukraine offered him 3 times as their Secretary of Defense job. And I
Right.
find that to be outrageous, absolutely outrageous.
Yeah, especially when he's still considered out. Is he still active duty in the army, or is he retired, or
No, he's still active duty.
because yeah, that's big time bad.
Yeah,
And
and they
up,
said that he reported it and it went up the proper chain of command. I don't know if he reported it all 3 times or just the first time that it happened, but that's incredible. But I know other
yeah,
foreign officers have been offered jobs by other countries, but it's been small countries like Bermuda, you know, or
hmm
not necessarily Bermuda because they're under English rule, but little countries that need somebody uh,
right.
that
Instead of
need
a
help,
country
not
that's
the
ranked number
Ukraine.
3 in corruption.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's bad. Um, what I'm what I've got here open is from apparently it's from Time magazine, and I'm not sure what Nova Scotia has to do with it, but it says Halifax, Nova Scotia. The Secretary of the U.S. Navy said he doesn't consider a tweet by the President Donald Trump or an order, and would need a formal order to stop a review of a sailor who could lose his status as a Navy SEAL. Um, Two things I have a real issue with. If you've gone through SEER school, there shouldn't be anybody on the planet that should be able to take your trident away. They can give you all kinds of reprimands, but it wouldn't be that you didn't all of a sudden get through that hell week and all the other stuff that comes along with it. You earned that thing, and until the day you die, you are a graduate of SEER and you are a Navy SEAL. So this idea that they can take the trident away really has me baffled. It's like, okay, well, you didn't really do that, or you did it, and well, it doesn't count anymore. That bothers me tremendously. But
That
anyway, so
bothers
that's
me too, and
that's
it
one
bothers
issue.
me. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It also bothers me that the SEALs, uh, it was called the Sewing Circle, was this group of SEALs that had a What's Up app, and that's how all this started. And the name of their group on the What's Up app was called Sewing Circle, and they it was just SEALs under his command that were upset with him that started this whole thing. And
Right.
that to me goes back to what we were saying earlier. What's going on? Why wasn't that handled? If they felt there was a problem, why wasn't it handled internally? And how did it become
There's
this big?
there is a there's a different thing going on. It seems like the brotherhood and the sisterhood of the military is collapsing because there's so many social justice warriors and soy boys and girls that are in there now, and everything seems to be run off emotion. Um, if your commanding officer pisses you off, then all of a sudden there's rumors flying and submitting paperwork. Well, he touched me and all this other,
Exactly. I don't
and
have to follow that
it's
order because
this
I found it to be
right.
unlawful. You know?
I found it to be upsetting. That seems to be what it was. What it's more looking like nowadays. Well, that order just upsets me, so I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. We did have a girl when I was in the Navy that intentionally got pregnant so she wouldn't have to hump chains. Intentionally. And I counseled
Wow.
her, this is 18, this is the rest of your life, and no, she didn't want to be on that flight line anymore. She didn't want to hump those chains. So, yeah.
Then what the hell did she join for? That's what I always wonder. If you don't want it, then what the hell do you join for?
Yeah.
because there's so many other things you can do. I mean, there's a lot of burgers to be flipped. You can always start there and go somewhere else. But anyway, so the other deal is that there are things called anonymous letters that can be submitted by people in the military. And when I went through basic training, when we were doing our classroom stuff, one of the things they first told us was about rules of behavior, the way you carry yourself and the way you act as a soldier. And I remember it so vividly because the drill instructor said that there are two things that if you are accused of them, your life is over and there's nothing you can do about it. And he said, if you get accused of rape or if you get accused of molestation, regardless of your guilt, you will be prosecuted to the fullest of the military UCMJ. And I found that truly fascinating because it's more like what's going on now, where they find you guilty and then they look for the crime that they can pin you on for being guilty. And that's the way that the anonymous letters work in the military. If you make somebody mad that's potentially in your chain of command, then an anonymous letter can go forward and you are done. Your history with no ability to fight it.
Now, I did cases like that in the Navy. My biggest one was a senior chief. And again, it had to do with those flight line people. And a girl accused him, and it was not true. And I was able to prove that and save his career. And she was discharged from the military. And that
Wow.
was back in the 90s, because that just, it was a blatant lie. And she was saying all the key words and, acting uh, all the ways that you would think
The
someone
victim.
should act, but absolutely false, 100% false. And that man was going to be busted down to an E1 from a
Yeah,
E8.
he'd lose everything.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
And it was just, I believed her at first, woman to woman, I believed her. But then the more you start looking at it, I'm like, no, ma'am, this did not happen to you. Not at all. And if it did, it wasn't this guy, you know.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about the acting, and I'm wondering if the coaches are the same because going back to two examples, we have Blasey Ford. When she's speaking, she speaks fluidly and assertively. When she was answering questions about Kavanaugh with the fake accusations, it was, "Did this happen to you?" Yes. And
I didn't
all of a
believe her at
sudden
all.
she's the little girl and woe is me,
Playing the
and she's
part.
real soft spoken. Well, the
Timid.
same thing just happened. Yeah, timid withdrawal and all this stuff. It's like they coach it with the CIA, but the same thing. I think it was last week. The one of the ones, the old ambassador to Ukraine, the female. What's her name? Um, I can't even think of it. But anyway, when she was being asked the questions, I noticed immediately she sounded exactly like Blasey Ford. Just the way she was. Yes, yes, that's how it happened. That was true.
Mm.
It's like, wow, they sound exactly alike. They were both coached by the same CIA.
Well,
So everything is just a charade.
it is. And I do agree that anybody that throws these types of accusations in the military world, civilian world, need to be prosecuted. And that female was discharged from the military for that. You have to set a standard, and there just seems to not be. Well, that applies to you, but, or, well, yes, that happened to Private A, but you're a little bit different. Or, oh, you are
Yeah,
different, so we can't. We have to treat you differently. And the
right,
military, to me, is not about individuality at all. I don't care.
right.
You know.
It's supposed to be a team, but it's being
Yeah.
divided up. just like everything else. And I don't believe that's an accident either. I believe if you divide up your military and you divide up your veterans, then you can at least have an attempt at a fighting force on both sides if you decide to make them clash together. And that's where they're aiming right now. Some people don't believe that, but I do. I think that they are aiming for a conflict. Um, I think it's entirely possible that the conflict will be ignited in the South China Sea, and I think we're heading that way, and it's going
Have
to
you
be
read the South
domestic.
China? I'm
No, go
sorry.
ahead.
Have you read some of the
There's a
articles?
delay. It's all right.
Oh, from the South China Sea. There, I pulled one up a little while ago, and it's a website that you can get. Anybody can get. And the way they phrase, well, like any hostile country, but the way that they phrase what's going on with Trump and these, evil mercenaries that he wants to pardon these war criminals, these, killer of children. It didn't say that, but that's how you felt after you read the article. And it's just always funny to see how these hostile countries portray us. Even even England,
Right.
if you see what they say a lot of times about Trump. I mean, who are they? You know, let me go drop a bomb on you. But
Yeah. Well, speaking of the way people see the military, I don't know. I have not been able to verify the story. I saw it in one article, but apparently Iham Omar spit in the on the ground of the unknown soldier tomb, but I'm still trying to verify that. It's been buried. It sort of got out and then it went away, but that would be the most disgusting thing that could be done by a human. They were apparently laying a World War II soldier to rest in the tomb because he was unknown, but he had come back to the U.S. or whatever. But apparently she was disgusted and spit. But if I find out that's true, I'm going to file a petition to have her removed most haste from the Senate or from the House. I mean, very most haste. But still trying to verify it.
okay, well, let me know when you get that.
Yeah, because if I do, I'll be asking for signatures because I'm going to push very, very hard to have her removed with extreme prejudice if she did that, and I can verify it.
Excuse me.
Now, I pardon.
I have the hiccups.
Oh well, stop it. We're trying to get all the attention. I sort of made a transition into what I wanted to talk about. My next subject was the South China Sea. Um, the headline that I have here is U.S. warships conduct back-to-back freedom of navigation passes in the South China Sea, and I have a little issue with what's going on in the South China Sea. First off, if we're not absolutely sure that our Navy flag officers are 100% loyal to their commander in chief and subject to his command without freelancing, there is the potential for something really bad to happen that could draw us into a conflict in the South China Sea. One of those captains decides, well, here, I'm going to show Trump how this works, and we're going to make it a lesson to him, and they go off and they do something stupid all by themselves, then things could turn south very quickly. But I'm not opposed to buzzing those islands. 3 miles off the coast. If they want to do a military perimeter, they try to do 12 miles, but the islands don't really officially exist except for to China. So, what do you think about what's going on there?
I don't know a lot about it at all, and I don't feel at all in a place that I can talk about it. I just don't.
Well, you know what started the Vietnam War?
Mm, mm-mm.
It was a twin foxtrot in the Bay of Tonkin.
Mhm.
It was it was an event that supposedly happened that didn't actually happen, and they used that event to get us into the Vietnam War. And then we had the other uh, twin foxtrot on September that day. And I got to speak in code because I'll get the damn video dropped. But, way back there in September, and that one led us to the Middle East. Well, another thing has happened that has me deeply concerned, and it's the discussion about something it says a nuclear incident in the South China Sea that no one actually noticed hits the headlines. And here's the problem I have with it. Apparently this was a relatively large explosion. They're talking 10 to 20 kilotons, which is no little bitty thing.
No.
And the problem is that we have U.S. ships that are buzzing these islands 3 miles off their coast, and they're teasing them, saying you can't do anything. This is international waters. Then all of a sudden, a 10 to 20 kiloton weapon is detonated. Apparently, they're saying only 50 meters below the surface. That's when you're talking 10 to 20 kilotons. That's a damn surface weapon. At 50 meters, that you might as well detonate something like that in the grass in your front yard, because that's considered a surface detonation. And the problem is that apparently nobody that is in that area saw anything.
Impossible.
Right.
Impossible.
Absolutely
not to feel
impossible.
it. Impossible not to see it. Impossible.
And the potential tidal wave that it would have caused at 50 meters deep, displacement of water in that volume.
Sea life, all the dead, little sea creatures.
Right. Okay, well, this is the problem I have. It looks an awful lot like the deep state really needs us in conflict. There's got to be something, because these reports are getting ready to come out they say on the 9th. Here's a clue. If they give you a date that a thing is going to be dropped, you can bet it's not going to be on that date. That's what they do to try to throw off and create the false flags so that they can, get them to use all their ammunition, as it were. But if they give you an absolute date, you might as well just ball that up and throw it away. But the problem I see with this is that, a nice little conflict with China would be really distracting to what's going on in our House and Senate right now, and with the president. Oh, and it would be a very big moneymaker. And all of the left-wing henchmen already have their profiteering in place for China. So they're trying to protect that at all costs with, trying to fight Trump on these trade wars and stuff like that, trying to get him to give China a good deal so they can continue to get their bankroll. And the whole thing just smells kind of fishy. But to have a 10 to 20 kiloton explosion and nobody sees it, but it ends up in all the headlines.
Impossible. There's satellite someplace. There's, somebody felt it.
And they
all
said
the dead marine
Well, they
life.
said there was no associated earthquake. That was another key that I heard that would put a dead end on it. No associated earthquake. So you didn't catch anything on the seismographs to pick up 10 to 20 kilotons of an explosion.
That's just bullshit.
Yeah. Anyway, there's another headline here about this, and it says the U.S. Navy sends literal combat ships as opposed to artificial or not so literal combat ships to bolster attack strength in the South China Sea. They love to use little keywords to just drive that thing home. We got to make this headline a lot more powerful. Hey, let's throw in literal. That works every time.
Instead of those little paper ships that we move around on a schematic someplace. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that would have been a killer job in World War II, and be in that position, be able to play with little model ships. Let's put these two together. Hey. All
Literally.
right. So it says two Independence class vessels, USS Gabrielle Gifford and the USS Montgomery, have been operating in the disputed waters. U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper says operations have been stepped up to send a signal to China should abide by international rules. So,
Should,
yeah, should. We don't
should.
really want them to, but they should. Uh oh, somebody's at the door.
They're coming. Sorry.
All right, so no, it's fine. They're dogs. They're going to do what they're going to do. So, with what I'm saying about the South China Sea, what is your thought? This is the well, we're opening it up for your opinion.
Well,
Excellent thought.
yeah. Uh, if it's going to happen, that's a good, that's a perfect place for it to happen because they have longevity. They have enough people, they have enough infrastructure to make it a long, drawn out crisis, a long drawn out war, as opposed to this sand war that we're fighting. That it just breaks my heart every time a service member is maimed or killed because there's no outcome. There is no finish point in my
Right.
mind with these actions that are going on now. And it just kills me when you see somebody else has been killed, or they've been shot and they've lost their arms, their legs, their eyes. It For what?
Right.
What's the end game? What's our exit strategy, and when are we going to do that? Because nothing has changed.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you kind of wonder how are we supposed to fight wars nowadays? The rules of engagement were made entirely too strict by Obama. Some of that's been slacked off by President Trump. But the problem is, for example, in World War II, I'm not in favor of civilian death. I mean, they have nothing to do with it. It's the governments that usually attack each other, and the soldiers just do their bidding. But the civilians have right to life and shouldn't be involved in it. But in World War II, the only reason things were won is because they destroyed so much of their infrastructure, all of their buildings, all the bridges, everything that they used to exist. They were destroying it, and after a certain amount of time of getting your city destroyed, then you finally go, okay, I'm done. All right, we need that. We need at least a couple of buildings left,
Hmm.
but we don't do even that anymore. We we basically wait for somebody to go from a smile to a scowl on their face and pull up their AK before we decide to attack. And there's no way to win a war that way. You have to completely wear out your opponent. You have to make them not want to continue. They're losing too much, and until that happens, there's no end game to any conflict. If they don't
Well,
lose anything, they don't have to worry about stopping.
well, exactly, and that's why it grieves me so much because I just can't see any. I'm not in the government. I don't have any clearances. I only have access to the same things everybody else has access to. But I just don't see what we're doing there. Nothing has changed. Nothing is getting better.
Yeah.
And did you
Well,
see? I have a friend that's a border agent, and
I
they
heard
caught
that.
a Russian coming across the Rio Grande.
Really.
Hmm.
Well, we already have Russians here.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Hi, Darla.
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, back in the 50s and the 60s,
My XO
what were you
used
saying?
to my XO used to tell me every time on the weekends, on Friday, loose lips sink ships, and keep everything to yourself. And I mean, it was just a speech that he gave uh, all of
Right.
us.
Yeah, if you open your mouth, we're going to beat you with soap.
Well, the Cold War was still going on, and it's still. going on today. There are people here that want to ruin this country. And if we don't toughen up, go back, toughen up, we're just going to fall, just like Germany did. We're going to be starved out, repressed people. And it'll be easy for somebody to march right on in here, just like they're doing with Venezuela, broke that rich country down in 6 years. And somebody's going to march right on in here and take over the people that are left. And
right. Yeah, there's so many problems. This has been planned for so many years. This has been practiced. World War II was a good sketch pad for them to learn how to do things, and they do them. But a lot of people don't realize that back in the 50s and the 60s, the Russians were sending people to the United States as married couples, and they would come here under false documents, and they would live as the American people do, and they would go back and forth to their jobs, but they would be spying for Russia. Well, they sent them over here, whether they were married or not. They were sent as married couples, and they were made to have children. Well, maybe they chose to have children or couldn't figure out what was causing the children. Either way, they were having children.
Part of the plan. They were part of the plan.
Yes. So the kids would be born here, turned into American citizens, and raised as Russian assets and put into positions of power at any point that they could, and then they would continue to spy for Russia. And that's the thing that I think about with Comrade Vindman. That just feels to me like a Russian asset that is in here on false pretenses.
Yeah, did you hear what he said when he gave his little heartfelt speech about his father bringing them here when he was a toddler? Part of his speech included the statement, "And don't worry, Dad, I won't be hurt for telling the truth," or "I'll be safe for telling the truth," something along those lines. I'm like, really?
Right. Yeah, it's emotion. Everything runs on
but
emotion.
In Russia, they would kill you. Under Ukraine law, you do break out, be this breakout heretic, and you get killed. So he's letting his dad know that he'll be okay for telling the truth. Well, horse duty. My friend wrote a book. Her dad was a spy, and she wrote a book. I went to school with her, and it's all about her dad being a double agent, or turning the Russian guy into a double agent is what it was. And it's a very interesting book. And just to know that stuff was going on in little Pensacola, it's very interesting, because I never knew. He just went to work. He went to work and he went out of town. That's what he did.
Right. Yeah, don't ask, don't tell.
Well, you didn't tell your
not
kids.
all U.S. military are good Americans that can be bought. That's true, DM. There are bad people in every corner, and the majority of them are not, though. And it kind of goes. I saw a video a while back, and it kind of tells me where we are. And it's a police officer, and they were guarding. Keeping the conservatives away from Antifa, and this one woman asked the cop if he would collect guns if he was told to, and he says, "Well, of course I would. It's my job. I'd have to do my job." And that's the biggest problem we have. And the same thing with military. There are some young kids that are all gung-ho that think, "Oh yeah, well, that's a good idea. We'll go ahead and we'll do what we're told, and we'll go follow through with that unconstitutional order, and we'll disarm the public." They did a beta test after Hurricane Katrina, and sure enough, they had some young sprightlies ready to go, and they went door to door and disarmed the people. And what's going to happen is they're going to get people killed. And I'm sorry for that, but that's the reality of it. It's not even. I'm not trying to be a warmonger or any of that, but it's the reality. They are going to get people killed.
I agree. I didn't know that about Katrina, though. I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, they went through the Ninth Ward, door to door, and they confiscated weapons. They even had a woman that was, I think she was 80 or 80, between 80 and 85. She had her revolver in her hand, and she was just standing there talking to them, and they were closing in on her. And finally, they grabbed her. And they ended up breaking her wrist and blacking her eye, and then tasing the woman because she said that the only protection I have is this revolver, and my front door doesn't even latch anymore because the house got damaged. So she said, I'm not giving it up. So they basically attacked her.
That's terrible.
That was a
I
beta
had no
test.
idea.
There's a lot of these going on.
Never heard that before.
Well, by now it's probably been suppressed off of the internet.
Pardon?
By now it's probably all been suppressed off of the internet, but you probably still had YouTube videos that were searchable at some point.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Well, and going to your statement of the weak-minded police and people just doing whatever for a paycheck is all it boils down to in my mind. They're not making a stand. They're not deciding what's right and what's wrong. They're just worried about a paycheck at any cost. Right. And the government does make the atomic town. Where was that in Tennessee? Where was that atomic town for the Manhattan Project in Tennessee? Oak Ridge. And they had all the signs up, if you leave, don't tell, don't talk, don't say anything, about living here or what we're doing with the Manhattan Project. And so the government isn't, I can't convey my thought the way that I want it to come out. People will do things for a paycheck. I don't think the Manhattan Project was wrong, but the government isn't above itself. The government won't say, "Oh, now we shouldn't do that. That's just not right." If they feel that it's something that needs to be investigated or tried out, they're going to do it, and they're going to hide it.
Yeah. Well, I've actually done a video in the past about where do we sit on the food chain, and the reality is we are last in line. As a matter of fact, right now they're talking about an imminent event in the Cascadia Fault up in off the coast of Washington. All the signs are there that there's something massive getting ready to break loose. Magma's been rising in all the volcanoes in Washington and northern Oregon. The subduction zone has been creeping, and all this stuff is verifiable. Fact checking can get you done, but the military has been training up there. The FEMA's been training, first responders doing drills. But then when you ask the military what's going on, oh, nothing, we're just drilling. So when it comes down to it, they're not going to tell people about a massive disaster coming because they don't want to risk continuity of government and the risk of panic and all the things that come along with it, crashing economies. It's all about the dollar, and you are not involved. So you are just the useless eaters, and you'll learn about it just immediately after it starts happening. So that's where we are on the food chain.
Yeah, the emergency. This is a emergency broadcast alert. Didn't even work during 9/11. It never
exactly
came on. You think it would have come on, but yeah, they would not let the country know if we were about to be attacked. Could you imagine the chaos? Could you the unnecessary chaos? It'll be bad enough, whatever it is, but then that everybody. I just couldn't imagine them telling the country.
I just lost your audio for myself, but imagine, just like every other time, everybody can probably still hear you just fine. It's popping a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
I'll just wave my hand real quick at Rex. Good to see you. I can hear you now. It's just in and out a little bit. It's the curse.
Yeah, it's about that time that something's going to happen.
So you're sitting ducks. Yeah, we can get away with about 50 minutes, or right now it's at 49 minutes. So that seems to be the magic number, and then it starts going to garbage.
Jeff Brandu says, look for Dutchness on YouTube. The guy is smart. I follow
Dutch
him. He
sense.
gets kicked off all the time.
Yeah,
He's something else.
yeah. There's a few of them, and that's interesting that you brought that up because I should let you guys know that if you know people that would be interested in the content that I have to offer, I need you to let them know and bring them here with you because YouTube has decided that my maximum number of subscribers is going to be 1,550. They let me get up to 1,560 about 12 times in the last 2 weeks and then keep bringing me back to 1,550. So that's apparently where they've satisfied themselves with where I need to be. And they've also removed over 1,000 view hours. So if you guys would let your friends know about me and let them know to watch some of the videos, maybe help me get my view hours up, because what they're doing is they're setting up for the purge on the 10th of December, and all of this is part of their magical game to get rid of their opposing views. So if you guys can help me out, I would appreciate that. But so Belinda, I know we've only been at it for 51 minutes, but we've really gone through a lot of information. Do you have anything else in particular that you wanted to bring up and discuss in the last 10 minutes?
Bloomberg.
Oh, he's a putz. All right. Well, that was good.
Okay, thanks. Now that that's all cleared up.
No, what what is the what is that?
Why? How come everybody else had to announce earlier in the year that they were running for president and he can just decide to do it now? And how come he used to be a Democrat, then he was a Republican when he was elected mayor, now he's back to Democrat socialist? What is he besides a pain?
Putz.
Putz.
Yes, absolutely. He what he is a prime example of what we're facing for 2020. It's a toe in the water probe, and what they're doing, they know that the people that they have lined up for the Democrat Party right now are hopeless. They are beyond hopeless. They have the popularity rating of scabies. So they're what they're doing is they're probing to see if there's going to be a peak in popularity, and that's what they're doing with Bloomberg. And he'll get around, he'll get in there and he'll wade in the water a little bit for a little while, and if there's no popularity increase for him, then he'll duck out and they'll bring somebody else.
Well, did you see
And if they
Biden?
don't have success, then they will run Democrats that will be what I don't have the audio. I think I was talking all over you. Um, let's see. I can see you sitting there. You can
Can
talk.
you hear
I'm
me
actually
now?
watching on YouTube, so I can see if you're.
Can you hear
I'm
me now?
getting. I get a few words, but can you? Okay. Anyway, all right. I see you shaking your head, but that was probably about 15 minutes ago because of the delay. All right. So go ahead and finish up what you were saying, Belinda, because I know they can
I,
hear you.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I don't
Oh no, no,
understand
no! Please don't mind. Don't bother. I'm good.
with
But go
Bloomberg
ahead.
using his own money. I guess because Joe Biden has taken such a walk on the senior citizen side, he threatened Lindsey Graham. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the guy feels he is the law. He's above the law. He and his family can do whatever they want, and I think Bloomberg is the calming figure that that they're going to try and throw in there because he can fund his own campaign, and that's what he's doing to get rid or to sidestep
is he?
maybe Joe Biden.
Do you really think he's funding his own campaign?
He has enough money. I mean, the
Right,
DNC
but I
doesn't
just
have
don't
enough
think he
money,
is.
so
I think he's a plant, and because of him agreeing to be a plant, I think that with some research, you'll probably find that that money that he's being pushed through with is from a super PAC or George Soros, ultimately something. But I really believe he's a plant.
I
He's a
don't know.
probe.
Well, you can remember last week we talked about all of his companies and, the how to get the influence, if you want to influence politics and, all this stuff on his Bloomberg website that I got by accident trying to go to a legitimate government website. You know, uh,
Right.
the guy is the guy's far reaching, and I don't know if he's a plant or if he's just going to throw enough money at it to try and get his way.
Yeah, hard to say. I think ultimately we're going to see another Hillary Clinton. Um, just it just feels that way. It feels like they're setting it up, and they're hoping to get rid of the president and then have Mike Pence step down due to blackmail, and then Nancy Pelosi would slide into the presidency. She would resign after delegating the vice presidency to Hillary, and then Hillary would be in the chair. But
No, no,
they
no.
first have to get rid of President Trump. Well, I agree, but if they do it this way, we already know it's a coup, so they're not even trying to hide that anymore. But they've got some serious stones to be able to do it with a straight face, staring at the American people. But it is exactly what they are.
Yeah, because they're playing to the ones that don't think. If you sound intelligent, these people sound intelligent. I just find it patronizing, and people gravitate to that. Oh well, they've been they have higher education, and listen to the way their speech, and we need to follow them. They make very good sense, and they're playing to a whole group of people
Right.
that do not think. And I don't
And there's
know.
unfortunately there's an awful lot of them.
Yeah, like we were saying last week, how do we get other people to start thinking? How do we change their ways or their thoughts, or just have them even consider a different point of view? How do we do that?
There are right now there are 34%. If you believe the polls, which I don't, I take them sort of for granted or whatever. I just grain of salt.
Grain of
But
salt, yeah.
apparently 34% of the people still support impeaching President Trump. But there's no crime. So that means 34% of the people are willing to destroy somebody just because, even though there's no crime, there's no injustice that was done. It doesn't matter. We still want him impeached,
Right, like you
whether he
said
broke the law
earlier in
or
the
not.
show, feelings, impeach him on, well, I feel the phone call meant this. I feel the phone call meant that. No, you're
Right.
not there to interpret the phone call in black and white. It says this. There's no there's none of
Quid
that.
pro
There's no
quo. Easy for
bribery.
you to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. There's no bribery. Shut up, sit down, and take your little shitty shift back with you.
Right.
Whoops.
Well,
Sorry.
all right. Well, with that being said, we are at our hour. It did fly by again. I thank everybody for joining us. My mods, thank you guys very much. You keep this thing flowing decently. If I could ever keep my audio going completely, it would be awesome.
Thank you,
Belinda, thank you so
everybody.
much. You rock.
No,
I
you
hope
rock.
we went over enough information this time to give people things to chew on. Yeah, there are some that will not change. That's a fact. You can't change them. I mean, all you can do is you can warn the people that'll listen, and you walk away from the people that won't. That's the only way to do it. But anyway, with that being said, y'all, thank you for coming, and we will see you next Sunday. Actually, we'll probably see you Tuesday night. But until then, stay in the fight.
Bye bye.